This is it. It's finally the week where Crimson Desert is gonna officially launch. I am excited. You are excited. My grandma from heaven is looking down and smiling upon me. Can you say the same, Imperial scum? Well, it doesn't matter because Crimson Desert is gonna make us all forget the small things in life. And then after a week or two, we're gonna be really mad at each other again. But that is absolutely fine in the way it should be.
Finally, the week for Crimson Desert. Look, Crimson Desert was actually revealed 7 years ago, and this is something that Pearl Abyss admitted they pulled the trigger on too early, so it's been a long road getting here. However, they've also said they're trying to avoid overhyping the game so players don't think it's the second coming, and that's what I'm here to
I mean, they failed tremendously on that one, I have to say, because at this point, let's be real. Is there any real criticism about Crimson Desert? I mean, I can't find any, really. Most people can't find. Some people are slightly cautious, but other than that, nah. Everyone's sold.
do. Cut through the fat, give you the raw information on Crimson Desert, whether you're hopping on for the first time, just wondering, why is everyone talking about this game? I need to know more about it, or you want to get ready for that March 19th release date, or you're already excited, know everything,
2 days.
you're kind of just here because you want more Crimson Desert in your life. Whatever it may be, I got you covered. So let's not delay any further.
Wait, what are we thinking, boys? What are going to be the Crimson Desert numbers? 200k, 300k? How much are we talking about here? Because this has to be a giant hit. Slay the Spire got 500k. Crimson Desert has been in the top sellers for literally weeks. And the most recent thing that we can compare it to is Marathon, and Marathon had 80k, and it was concurrent players, and it was in the top sellers for like a week or two or something like that, and didn't even beat Crimson Desert. So by all accounts, I don't see a world where Crimson Desert does not hit a minimum, super minimum 200k peak. Now, granted, I haven't super looked into this, but I mean, this is a prediction I feel I can say without actually, doing any research or anything, that a blind prediction like this is gonna probably go through. Everyone's talking about it. The videos for this thing are popping off. Everyone is interested. And my god, I think it's gonna be great. It's the second coming at the end of the day.
If you're new here and you're into what's going on with Crimson Desert, get subscribed. Let's start off with what this game is in a very literal sense, like the genre, because that was a big talking point for Crimson Desert. A lot of people look at this game and they hear about its progression systems, and it's immediately assumed to be an RPG, but it is not an
I mean, it technically is a role-playing game. Everything's a role-playing game.
RPG, and it is probably the biggest misconception about Crimson Desert. Pearl Abyss themselves has gone on record multiple times saying it is not an RPG. The game's description says it's an open world action game, and of course, this is something that the head of PR in Will...
You know what's going to be the funniest part about this? We know already a lot of information about Crimson Desert, and one of the things that has been pretty much confirmed is that your choices do actually impact the world and things like that. So, Crimson Desert, while probably not actually trying to be a role-playing game, is gonna have more roleplay elements than most roleplay games that try to be roleplay games. Crimson Desert is probably gonna achieve that by accident.
Powers has also mentioned online multiple times. The main progression of this game is through Abyss artifacts, which can be found through quests, combat, and exploration. You'll use these artifacts to increase core stats like health and stamina on top of your skills, so a lot of the progression system functions similarly to something like
I'm playing with Rapier Girl, obviously.
Zelda. So you're moving things forward, but you're not tweaking your strength and your intelligence and your dexterity. So yeah, there are progression systems that play into certain playstyles, but this isn't choice and consequence driven. This isn't going to be like massive levels of build crafting and stat crafting. Like, you're not getting any of that. So go in thinking open world action game, not open world RPG. Okay, next step here. You look at this game and you're like, how are they doing that? That's got this, and that in it. How are they doing all of that? Well, a big reason why they're able to accomplish this scale, the developers have talked about their proprietary engine in the Blackspace engine. This is basically what the game's technical performance is living and dying on, and the world is larger than Red Dead Redemption 2, is what the claim is, according to the head of PR. PC Gamer's preview did note that it took them 5 minutes to get from one biome to another, and that was on top of a dragon. So it's overwhelmingly big, and it looks beautiful on PC.
Yeah, That is pretty accurate, to be honest. Think about, I don't know, World of Warcraft is probably a good example. Currently, the Midnight expansion. How long does it take to get from Silvermoon to Zulaman? On Mount. Flying Mount. I don't know, like a minute. And you're telling me this thing is like effectively 5 of those? That is a lot of space.
And so much of what this game accomplishes, from its gameplay systems we'll talk about in a little bit, all the way down to its technical capability, is because of this engine. In fact, Will Powers has gone on record saying that all of the features this game has, the engine was built in mind with it. So they were working toward specifically this game, achieving this specific vision and using tech to power that. Speaking of technology, a big conversation around Crimson Desert has been its specs. When you look at the PC specifications, I mean, this thing can run on a 1060, which is like a 10-plus-year-old.
Now, the thing about this is, does the Nuvo ruin this part? That's what currently everyone is actually thinking about. Does the Nuvo completely destroy this? You could run this on a potato, cool. But does the Nuvo let you run this on a potato? Because they're gonna have the Nuvo. That's probably the only legit concern at this point left. It's the fact that they did do the scumbag thing of being like, hey, there's an anti-cheat that ruins game performance. Have fun. And they hid that until, literally 2 days ago or something like that, which is not great.
Old graphic card. So I think between this and the plethora of gameplay that they've already shown from the PC, the majority of the marketing has been on PC. The recent 6-hour previews were on PC. I have a lot of confidence in the PC version of this game. Given the scale and the visuals of this game, I think this is one of the most impressive parts of Crimson Desert and why so many people were like, what? This is real? What's the catch? Well, PS5 Pro also does not seem to be the catch because Digital Foundry did a full-on deep dive with that version of the game, and while we did see some frame dips on the PS5 Pro's performance mode, it looks like it holds up pretty well when compared to something like the PC. And again, it's another example of getting some extensive gameplay where you can lay your eyes on it and make a pretty safe pre-order. When you move over to the console specs, though, we have information on paper here. I think the worst of it is the Series S on performance mode, which is 720p, 40 FPS.
Let's be real. No one's playing Crimson Desert on a console or PlayStation or whatever. Most people aren't. I know there's going to be people in the comments saying, I will. Yeah, okay, good. But most people won't.
With ray tracing off, of which the ROG Xbox Ally gets the same stats on its performance mode, while the Xbox Ally X does even better. Aside from that, both the Series X and S are looking at 3 modes in performance, balanced, and quality mode. Performance mode is going to be 1080-60 with low ray tracing. The balance mode will be upscaled 4K from 1280p with 40 FPS VSync and low ray tracing. And then the quality mode for Series X and PS5 will be upscaled 4K from 1440p, 30 FPS with high ray tracing. Unfortunately, we have not been able to lay eyes on this one. So this is the situation behind Crimson Desert on console, and I think it's an important thing to know before going in. Digital Foundry, who did the PS5 Pro preview, was naturally asked when are they going to do something for the PS5, and they said that it's on the way, but it sounds like it's lining up with the launch timing. And a lot of people were confused by this because you figure that Digital Foundry would just get a game key and then put that game on their PS5 and their PS5 Pro and compare them side by side. But instead, someone asked if the assumption was correct that they sent a console with the game loaded on it, and they said this is the case. Now, I saw this, and I've personally never heard of this as someone who's gotten a number of review keys in their time doing YouTube content. But it turns out, according to John Linneman, this isn't that weird. He says it's not weird. It means they haven't finished the back-end stuff necessary to send out codes. That's a whole process, and they likely submitted too late for it to go live. Thus, this solution was devised. And he also says that it's not strange, and a lot of games aren't active on the storefront until closer to launch. It's related to submission and bringing it online on the back end. Unfortunately, the result in this situation...
That is a little bit sus and strange, though. You would think they would handle that properly, right?
Situation is that we don't have any base console footage. And this is a shame because this means that a lot of the players, like a big piece of the pie, aren't going to know how this game runs until launch day. For example, Circana's Matt Piscatella said that low single-digit percentage of total PS5 sales are the PS5 Pro. So while those people can comfortably pre-order or not pre-order, depending on what they saw and how they felt about it, that's still a very small part of
the average console pleb does only feel, not think. That is true and base.
Of the pie. I know there are similar specs between PS5 and PS5 Pro, but I don't blame the games industry for having a million questions about this because Pearl Abyss has set a great standard for themselves in being incredibly transparent. I'm not dooming on them. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt because they have earned it with what I see on PC. And also the specs that are needed to run this thing on PC are impressive. This thing runs on a Mac. So there's a level.
Wait, the attention to detail is kind of wild. I just noticed this. I haven't seen this before, but look at this.
Needed to run this thing on
That's actually how a lot of this shit functions.
PC are impressive. This thing runs on a Mac. So there's a level of, okay, I think they got this thing optimized, but of course, with all the other points of this game's marketing being very open and transparent from PC to PS5 Pro, I do look at this and raise an eyebrow as to why we don't know anything about the base console footage. Some have said simply don't pre-order, and I agree, but right now...
You know what? I'm gonna be real. I don't care if the consoles are fucking ass. As long as it runs fine on PC, I'm fine, okay? Consoles need to learn their place, especially now when they're like, oh, we're gonna make exclusives for the consoles only. Yeah, let's see how that works out for you. Yeah, let's see how far you get with that.
Now pre-ordering...
There's a reason you stopped, because people fucking hate you. Do you think that's gonna change magically?
On PC feels pretty safe, and I don't think it's a crime to say that many other base console players should have been afforded that option. Well, either that or just use your brain. That's what the head of PR is telling you to do right now. So there's that too. That's the technical update for Crimson Desert. Let's keep moving on into the fun stuff now, the gameplay systems. So sticking with the engine a little bit longer here, it's also the reason this game has a sort of jack of all trades tagline next to it. You've seen the gameplay. You can see you can do everything from flying on a dragon to web slinging. And back when the game got a Game Awards trailer in 2020, it was revealed that Crimson Desert would no longer be an MMO that it was originally set to be. Instead, you would kind of be taking all those MMO things and stuffing them into a massive open world. Like, you know those what if scenarios you have when you're playing one of your favorite MMOs where you wonder if...
This was, by the way, one of the big reasons why I thought that Crimson Desert is going to be good and successful. Because everyone knows that Pearl Abyss would have made a lot more money making this thing into an MMORPG like Black Desert. But they decided against it because it just was better to make a single-player game like this. That means they care about integrity. At least to a certain degree, right? They're gonna have microtransactions. But that does mean that they are actually trying to make something good, not just make money. Now, obviously, money's a huge part of it. It always is. Everyone likes money. I like money. You like money. My granddad liked money. Everyone likes money. And so do they. So there's no shame in that, honestly. But the fact that they chose to do things like this that will theoretically make them less money is insane.
There's this magical alternate reality where the developer just turns off all the knobs and this big online game becomes a single-player game, and what that would exactly feel like. In some sense, you can think of Crimson Desert like that, except this was announced in December of 2020, and so they've had a little bit over 5 years now to get all the MMO stuff out of it. And hey, I mean, they did confirm that at least at launch, there are no microtransactions for this game. They said it's a premium game that you buy one time and that anything that's announced or coming at launch is strictly cosmetic. So again, it does kind of leave the door for post-launch microtransactions. And given this game did have some online components, you wonder if they're going to add an online mode with microtransactions. But again,
no, you can sell microtransactions single-player games. People buy them. Let's be completely real. Look at the Capcom and their literal history. They sell everything, and people buy it. People buy it a lot, in fact. Dark Souls types of games, do you think people would not buy shit there? They would. They 100% would. Dead Space, remember when that had microtransactions years and years ago? People bought that. People will always buy it. So, this is not a problem. You can add microtransactions to a single-player game, no problem. People will buy it. No matter how absurd, no matter how dumb. It's gonna sell.
With the transparency, benefit of the doubt, and at least day one, you're just buying the game. But back to the gameplay systems, what can you do in this game? It's kind of become a question of what can't you do here. So you can swap between 3 different protagonists a la GTA 5. There's a sandbox combat system that has you facing off against tons of enemies like a Musou game, all the way to massive boss fights a la Dragon's Dogma 2 or Shadow of the Colossus. There's base building, there's managing your gray mains from the farms that they work on to attacking enemy bases, there's piloting mechs, using a jetpack, solving puzzles. There's a crime system, a card game, cooking, fishing. The list goes on. There's a lot to engage with in this game.
And all of this is supposed to not be just a random throwaway thing.
And Crimson Desert had 6-hour hands-on previews recently at a press event. And one thing that was mentioned a lot is how puzzle heavy that this game could be. The very systems used to solve puzzles, though, were used in combat. For example, that slingshot that I mentioned could let you web sling or throw yourself into the battle like a cannonball would also be used to grab objects in the environment and be used to solve these very puzzles. So there was a lot of player creativity in how you could approach any situation, and PC Gamer's preview kind of described it as a situation of not going in with complete efficiency in combat, but rather looking at every situation like, how can I style on people? Almost like a Devil May Cry game in a sense. Anyway, to the puzzles though, many of these are held in the Abyss. Think of these like the Sky Islands for Tears of the Kingdom, your map within a map. And like any good puzzle, the solution is not immediately apparent and you don't have some co-main character beside you saying, hey, here's how you solve this one. It's just kind of there for you to figure out, a la, again, Breath of the Wild.
Is that like a microchip, by the way? Is that intended to be like a microchip? Is this a giant computer floating in space that you need to reassemble?
Tears of the Kingdom. So I wanted to put that out there in case you're not a big puzzle game fan, that it seems like as much time that you're spending fighting in this world, you'll also be spending a
It really does, doesn't it, at points?
somewhat equal amount of time solving these puzzles. For those who do love fighting, though, Crimson Desert's going to be taking good care of you, it seems like, because during those previews that I mentioned earlier, we saw the same bosses being fought by other people, but they were unfolding in different ways because of the ways the players were engaging in the systems. Not just in the combat styles of like unarmed, where you can straight up suplex people and then chain together body slams, but also using your sword, bow and arrow. There were guns. I even saw someone doing a Zuna drop, like from Ninja Gaiden, which I thought was amazing. And this comes down a lot to the controls. There's your simple light attack, heavy attack, dodging, parrying. A lot of this is heavily based around combos and stringing together moves and switching styles. It was noted in a lot of the previews that this could be a bit overwhelming, but I've always been an advocate of like, make a game that people got to sit with and learn, not the game that's immediately accessible and you go, aha, I get it. Like, have confidence in your product that it'll keep us around long enough to make us.
Yeah, people are complaining about the combat is not intuitive, but I mean, this is from the people who literally made Black Desert, you know, the MMORPG where you're supposed to combo and do shit and that and this and that. So I'm not exactly worried about this thing failing in combat.
Want to learn these systems. And so given the ways that you can throw yourself into the fight, the ways you can use a mech and just straight up shoot all your enemies, the different ways at handling your battles, and also the deeper mechanics within bosses all make this look like an absolute blast on the combat front. It's kind of the main selling point of the game for those who are new here and don't know much about Crimson Desert. Now, for those who also don't know much about Crimson Desert, not many people are talking about this story here. And so the general setup is this. Originally, it was going to be a prequel to Black Desert Online because Pearl Abyss, the developers behind this game, this is their first single-player game. They originally are known for that MMO in Black Desert Online. But Crimson Desert ends up being a new story in this universe here. And you play as Cliff, who is the leader of the Greymanes, effectively a band of mercenaries to keep it simple. And after suffering a betrayal, your group is fractured and weakened. And so Cliff does manage to survive a near-death experience, and he sets out for revenge and in an attempt to rebuild the Greymanes. It's about as straightforward as it gets, and the previews confirmed as much, also mentioning that the side quests were equally straightforward. The storytelling in this game primarily seems to be a vehicle to get you into its crazy gameplay systems, whether it be puzzles or fighting, and those are going to be the stories you tell. Those are going to be the memories that you hold on to when the game is all said and done. And frankly, there are some games where I can live with that. I'm definitely more of a story-driven gamer, and I think that's because I like world building, I love lore.
You liked Starfield's story. I'm not sure that's a good thing to say,
because it gives me something to care about, but we'll see if the combat and puzzle systems can hold the attention of story fans like myself. Also kind of controversial in this game is a feature that appeared in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and that is the ability to fast forward cutscenes. Some people call it TikTok brain, some people say don't use it if you've got a problem with it, and for me, I kind of view
Yeah, why the hell would you complain about something that's literally just an option to skip a cutscene?
it as this weird indication that people just shouldn't care about your story because you can 2x speed it and, quote, get the context for it, and I just don't agree with that. So I'm not here to pass judgment. If you plan to use it, go right ahead. I don't personally agree with the system being in the game, but it is there, and you should be aware of that. If you only, I guess, half care about the story, you can just fast forward everything and get some level of context onto what you're doing. And that about sums it up. So just to kind of shape some expectations afterwards, I've give a couple recommendations based on the information we have.
That's actually nice, honestly, that they give us an option to just not skip the story entirely so you're blind, but give you context so you slowly get sucked into it. I don't think the story of this game is going to be as bland as many people say. Now, granted, that's just a speculation, but I don't think the story is going to just be, all that villy forgetful type of stuff. So, whatever. In any case, that was Mr. Merry Place 10 out of 10. Bye!